But that's the various models one can have as to what went wrong in the universe. Unfortunately, Christianity has been predominantly influenced by the idea that what went wrong was a legal problem. And one of the reasons for this is the worldwide belief in the immortality of the soul. Because if the soul is immortal, then there has to be a hell. Isn't that right? You see, unless you believe God's going to save everybody. Now, if you take the view that God will save all who are safe to save, but the rest go someplace else, a place of deprivation and separation from God, maybe even a place of sulfurous flames and torture, whatever your picture of destruction might be. If the soul is immortal, how long will God's bad children suffer? For eternity. And that immediately changes one's whole picture of God and what's gone wrong in the universe. And that means that God is saying to us, you either accept the plan of salvation or you go to eternal torment. And almost all theologians through the years have believed in the immortality of the soul, and hence the doctrine of hell, which has cast its hellish shadow over the whole plan of salvation. Nothing has turned more millions against God than this belief. The devil in the Garden of Eden teaching that the soul is immortal and that God must destroy the wicked, but since their souls are immortal, they will be eternally tormented. You are now dealing with that kind of a God, and that immediately throws you into concern for your legal standing. So it is the doctrine of hell, I believe, that has preoccupied so many people with their legal standing with God. Because how do you avoid going to hell? By being forgiven. Because if you're forgiven, you don't go to hell. And that's all I care about. I don't want to go to hell. I want to go to the other place. What do you have to do? Believe, accept, the price has been paid, and you'll be forgiven. This is all concerned with one's legal standing. But if it is not true that God is the executioner and torturer of his children, but he simply leaves us to reap the natural consequences, if his final statement is, you who are righteous, go on being that way. And you who are filthy, just go on being that way. There's nothing more I can do. And all I have to do to you who are hopelessly beyond healing, you are confirmed in your chronic rebelliousness against me and your unwillingness to listen. I have one last word for you. Why will you die? How can I give you up? How can I let you go? But I am going to let you go. All these books that are full of God's patience say there is a point beyond which there is no purpose in God's waiting any longer, for we will not listen, and then he will let us go. And then we do not receive some legally imposed penalty. When God lets us go, what happens? Has he ever let anybody go? Only once, his own son. What happened to him? He died terribly. And what was God doing as the son died? He would be crying over his own son. How can I give you up? How can I let you go? And the son is crying back, Father, how can you let me go? But he did, and Romans 4:25 says that's why he died. He was given up and handed over. And you remember when we went through Hosea, we looked up all those verses. Now, what determines our destruction in the end is not some legal problem, but the condition that I'm in. And if I am now a confirmed rebel, I'm not in legal trouble. I am simply self-destroyed within. There is no willingness to listen. The image of God within me, the power to think and to do, has been obliterated by my own bad choices. And God says, even I cannot win you back. Do you remember when Lucifer prayed to be taken back? He begged Jesus, please let me come back. And Jesus wept over him, you remember? And said, it's not that we're unwilling to forgive. We're forgiveness personified. But you have so long indulged in habits of rebellious, illogical, and irresponsible thinking that you have destroyed both the capacity and the desire to respond to truth. And since the truth spoken in love is God's only instrument of persuasion and healing, and the devil had come to the place where truth met with no response and never again would, Jesus wept over him and said, that's it. And evidence that his diagnosis was correct was shown by the fact that when Satan heard this diagnosis, in fury, he announced his intention to bring the whole of God's creation about his own ears in destruction. And now he's going about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. When Hitler knew he'd lost World War II, you remember he announced his intention to bring the whole Third Reich down about his ears in destruction. And the world said, he's mad, he's a maniac. And so is the adversary. Cunning, but he's insane. He even thinks he's God. That's insane, isn't it? He says to Jesus, on your knees and worship me. That's insane. And he's dedicated totally to destruction. That's insane. Christ's diagnosis was right, but Jesus cried over him as he told him there was no hope for him. He never could respond, and he proved it by dedicating himself to destruction from then on. If God had given him up at that moment, he would have died. But God had a long-range purpose in here, lest he be misunderstood. Not until he let his son go, and he died, and nobody killed the Son of God. Jesus said, no one can kill me. I lay down my life of myself, and I take it up again. None of you can do that. I'm God. Because the angels had to realize God was not killing his son to get the message. God is not going to kill us in the end, but he will give us up as he gave up the son, and we will die, and he will cry. And it's not a legal thing, it's a real thing. Because of the condition in which we have placed ourselves, the consequences of endless no's rather than yeses to God and the truth, we have come to the place where even God cannot win us, and he sadly lets us go. Now, if that's the cause of the final destruction, we should not be so preoccupied with the adjustment of our legal standing as believers in hell are, but we should be preoccupied with our hearts and whether we've been healed, and whether we've been changed, and whether we're still humbly willing to listen to the truth and have new hearts and right spirits. We should be concerned with healing. Salvation means healing. To many, salvation means paying up your fire insurance and buying a ticket to the kingdom. That's legalism. The real meaning of salvation is healing the damage done. And God can and will save and heal all who trust him. And the biggest evidence that he can be trusted is the way Jesus lived and taught and behaved and suffered and died, which makes it clear that God did not say, if you don't love me, I'm bound by law to kill you. You get no love that way. But if you do not love me, what else can I do but let you go? And he let his son go as if his son didn't love the Father. He loved the Father. He was made to be sin, though he knew no sin, and he died the sinner's death. And that ought to be the end of legalism. The essence of legalism is preoccupation with our legal standing. And whether I offer God the blood of bulls or goats or the blood of his son, if I'm doing this to adjust my legal standing, I'm a legalist. But the man who knows the truth about God and knows the problem is not his legal standing, but the condition of his own heart and soul and mind, and having been won by the evidence, especially the supreme evidence of the death of Christ, to stand humbly in God's presence and say, remember me, as the thief on the cross did. I like what I see. What must I do to be saved? The answer you hear is, trust me. Isn't that what Paul said in Philippians? In the jail? Trust me. That's all. Now, trust means a humble willingness to listen. All God asks of us is love and trust, not the adjustment of our legal standing. But see, these are two ways of looking at what went wrong. If we're preoccupied with the legal understanding, guess who enjoys to hear us picture God that way? In my book,